Hey guys, my name is Gloria and welcome back to my channel. So today I want to do a little bit of a February wrap up, which of course was Women in Horror Month and also Black History Month. So for the month I concentrated, as well as doing a few review copies I had for my blog, I concentrated mainly on reading books by Black women in horror. But first, before I get into the books, I also did a lot of, I think one would call it impulse buying. And a lot of the things I bought were related to horror, were related to creepy, spooky things, so I thought I would just share them with you. One of the reasons I bought a lot of these things was because last year I was buying a lot from the UK. Now, because of Brexit and the extortionate customs charges, it's just not possible to do that anymore. It's not feasible. So I started to look for some Irish shops instead, and I found quite a few. So I found quite a few, even people I knew, making cool sort of gothic dark jewellery and art and fantastic things. So I'm going to share a few of those with you now. So one of the first was actually a shop I bought from before, a shop I will buy from again, and they're called In the Horrors. They're a little Galway Etsy shop who sell cool jewellery. You've probably seen them before in my videos. So I did already have the Shining Carpet oval earring. I then went and I bought her Shining Carpet hatchet earrings. And of course, when I saw the Shining Carpet ring, you just gotta have a matching set, you know. I just gotta get my ears pierced another time and I can wear them all at the same time. It's great. And this keeps happening to me with these small shops. She also included something I didn't order, but it is the Death's Head moth from Silence of the Lambs. So I have this fantastic, cool moth necklace as well. She does a lot of, obviously The Shining and this. She's got a few Twin Peaks stuff as well, but I've never seen Twin Peaks. I know, Twin Peaks, I know, I need to watch it, so you can go check out her shop. I'll link it down below. A friend of mine from the performing community here has started a jewelry trinket shop. She has just brought out some cool runes, and she does coffin boxes, little trinket boxes, and she has some jewellery as well. So I bought myself a cool bat necklace and earring set from her. I also have a cool rib cage necklace. I really like this one. I think I could make a cool, build a cool outfit around it. And I also have this cool Victorian sort of gothic little skeleton portrait-y thing, this little 3D thing, of course black and purple. I do have to go back for one of those coffin boxes though. Next up, I have a few just small things that I bought from random little shops. A lot of these, some of them are entirely for my own amusement, some of them though are to be included in future giveaways. So April is my birthday month and I like to give things away during that month, so I will be doing at least one giveaway, maybe two in April, and I'll be including some of the stuff you see here today, some of the stickers and little art pieces and pins and stuff in those giveaways. One that is entirely for me and entirely for my own amusement though is the duck with a knife. I saw it and I had to buy it. It was a sticker and a pin, and I love him so much. He has brought me so much amusement, so much joy. If I Marie Kondoed this, it will be sticking with me forever. I did also, from the same people, the Pastel Penguin Company, I also got a pin and a sticker of Just One More Chapter, a little book stack pin here as well. So I'm happy with those. They're very amusing to me. I also have a little, can't really separate them, but I have a little pack of stickers, little Halloween ghosty boys. They're little cutesy guys with little pumpkin balloons and stuff. I'm probably going to buy a lot more of these and include those in the giveaway as well. I just like those. Recently I just bought this little pin. I forgot the name of the shop on Etsy, but I will link it down below, or it'll be right here on my face. It's a little plague doctor and it says wash your damn hands. I wish it wasn't still relevant, but it somehow is. Also, the second to last, third to last, I bought a few things from a shop called West Queer Art. I actually found her on Etsy. No, I actually found her on TikTok. I found a few of these on TikTok actually, and I'm really happy with my little RIP gravestone earrings. They're very cute. I got a load of stickers and stuff from them as well, and little Coke bottle earrings as well for my addiction, so I really like those. And I almost forgot, I just grabbed this from the bathroom. I bought some little lavender skull soaps from Delusional Art. I think it's Delusional? I think it is Delusional Art on Etsy. Found her on TikTok, saw her making these, and I absolutely had to get them. She also makes cool Sheila na Gig soaps. That's a specifically Irish thing. It's basically an image that's found all over Ireland in ancient art of a woman opening her own, you know, they're not really entirely sure what it was about. They think it was a symbol of fertility or good luck for women, but a cool little Irish tidbit for you. And last but not least, so these two are interconnected. I normally am part of the celebrations and stuff of the Women in Horror Month in Dublin. They have an Instagram and everything, and every year they'll do screenings of movies. I got to meet a cool Irish director of The Devil's Doorway last year. They also have horror quizzes and all these cool things, and they also make a calendar every year, and a lot of my performer friends are in the calendar, cool pictures and stuff. I saw a post that they were selling the calendar. I immediately ordered one, didn't even look at it, whatever. Then I went to Etsy to look for some Irish horror art, and I found this absolutely gorgeous piece of art. It is by a shop called Pukka Dove, or Pukka Dove, depending on where in Ireland you are, which translates to Black Ghost. And this is her design of the Jarrig Do, or the Jarrig Dur, and I had not heard of this before, but it's actually one of the first ever mythological stories of vampires in Ireland. It was about a woman who wasn't allowed to marry the man that she loved. She was married to a horrible man instead, and eventually wasted away and died, and instead of her love for her true love bringing her back to life, it was her thirst for revenge, and she woke from the grave to take the life of everyone who had wronged her and to suck their blood. So she's also called the Red Thirst in English. I absolutely love this piece of art. My artist housemate was fascinated by the paper it's printed on, a lovely pearlescent paper, absolutely love it. I did not realise, however, that this was actually designed for the cover of the calendar. So it's also included in the calendar, but I'm still absolutely delighted that I bought it. So this is, first picture is my friend Shauna. There's also some illustrations as well. This is March. I think this is a great 1 year pandemic anniversary feeling here. I think it represents how we're all feeling about this month, but there's some really cool artistic and creepy pictures in here, so I'm glad I bought that. Pukka Dove, I made a couple of orders to them actually, only intending to buy like 3 things maximum. One of the other things was this gorgeous portrait of Mary Shelley. I obviously had to because of Women in Horror Month, and I love the design, I love the shimmery paper as well. So those are the 2 main art pieces that I bought. But as with most of these small shops, I was given so many little illustrated cards. I have a Ninja Pizza sticker, which again, it goes with the duck and the knife to give me pure joy. I got little pins, I have stickers of these cool creepy twins. There are so many things that I didn't order, but she just included anyway. There's a lovely little Pukka Dove postcard. I have some mermaid cards. I have a little fancy pants kitty cat here. I have a jackanape card as well. This is a gorgeous print, but it's also just the thank you note. Just such a fancy, lovely design. I love everything about the shop, to be honest with you. So I have a lot of cool little prints and stickers from all these different shops that I will be including in next month's giveaways. Obviously they will include books as well, but I like to include little cool things that you wouldn't expect too. So that, I think that's all of the sort of horror related spooky cool things that I bought last month. If you know of any cool shops on Etsy or anywhere else that aren't in the UK that you think I would like to buy from, please send them my way, because money just burns a hole in my pocket. But on to the book. So one of the first books that I read was not actually a horror book or a dark fiction book, but it is a non-fiction book about the life of a black woman called Henrietta Lacks. I'd already known about the Hela Cells, which are the reason that she's famous, but I didn't really know about her family and about her life and all of the stuff surrounding the science, or sort of pushed to the wayside because of the science. So this is a fascinating book. The writer of this book, Rebecca Skloot, made friends with the family, and in particular Henrietta Lacks' daughter Deborah, who was 1 year old whenever she died. So Henrietta Lacks was a woman, 31 years old, in the 50s, who discovered that she had cervical cancer, and she went to Johns Hopkins Hospital, which at the time, under Jim Crow rules, was one of the few hospitals that would even let a black person in the door. So this is all intertwined with sort of global ethics for medicine and science, but also with racism and sexism and everything. But she had a very aggressive form of cancer, and in the research done on her and on her life and on her illness, it seemed that it just ramped up immediately, going from 0 to 100 faster than anyone thought possible. Nothing they could do to treat her cancer, which at the time, this still blows my mind, it was treated by radium. And what they would do was they would literally get a little piece of radioactive radium and sew it inside of her next to the tumour to try and kill the tumour, which is just insane to us at this point, but that's how they did it at that time. She did end up dying, but right before she died, cells were taken from her tumour because there was someone also at Johns Hopkins called Dr. Guy who had for years been trying to grow human cells in lab cultures. If they were able to do this, they would be able to test things on human cells without having to test them on people. They would be able to learn so much more about the human body, and around the world, people were convinced that cancer was a virus, and if they could figure out what the virus was, they would be able to just have a vaccine for cancer and no one would have cancer anymore. Henrietta cells were the first, and I believe to this day the only immortal human cells, so they didn't expect much from them, but they continued to grow, continued to multiply. It ended up being a multi-million-dollar industry just to produce Hela cells, to produce the medium, the sort of food that was used to keep the cells alive. They discovered later on that these cells had sort of ruined a lot of research by infecting other cell lines that they thought were completely new and people had based research on, but in fact they were just Hela because Hela is unstoppable. But behind the Hela cells was the actual name and the actual woman, Henrietta Lacks, whose family went on not having any idea that her cells were being sold all around the world, that her cells were being taken to the moon, that radiation was being tested on them, that polio was cured because of Hela and the use of her cells. It wasn't until decades later that people started to hound the family, trying to get information from them, just trying to write different articles about them. Her family were not educated in science in any way, so they had no idea what it really meant, and none of the doctors or the scientists explained to them in any way. They would say things like, oh, your mother's cells are being cloned, and her poor daughter just thought that there were literal clones of her mother walking around. Her daughter was convinced that she was going to end up with the same cancer that her mother had, and when doctors found out about DNA and about Henrietta's DNA and wanted to find out more about her family, they came to the family and they took some blood samples from them, and the family assumed that they were being tested for the same type of cancer that their mother had. So her poor daughter spent years thinking that she had this cancer, and it was just, it's heartbreaking to read the ridiculous hardships that went on for the family, and people knowing all over the world who their mother was. Henrietta Lacks' children have and had a lot of medical issues themselves. Her daughters seem to stem a lot from just the stress of not being able to know who her mother was, and yet knowing that her cells and part of her body were all over the world being used in these horrible ways. To her, she thought there were horrible ways or being used in all of these different scientific experiments and whatnot, and she eventually did have multiple strokes due to the stress. But her children had medical issues, and a lot of the time throughout their lives they couldn't afford to actually see a doctor about them, even though their mother had advanced medical science so tremendously, and their mother's cells were being sold all over the world for hundreds of dollars for a tiny little vial of these cells. And her daughter Deborah had said a few times that even every time she went to a doctor or she met a scientist, she would tell them my mother was Hela, and they would know instantly what she was talking about, and they would tell her all of the ways that they had used Hela to research stuff. They would tell her that all of the pills she was taking were possible because of her mother's cells. So this is a fascinating story. It includes some pictures of the family and of Henrietta Lacks herself. I think Oprah made it into a movie, but or the life of, or I think, yes, the writing of the book was made into a movie. I didn't watch that, but I did watch a BBC documentary that is on YouTube right now. I'll link that down below. It was very interesting, and it's just, it's fascinating history. It was interesting to me as well because Hela cells were taken from her cervical cancer. The whole sort of department of gynecological study was started and was made possible because it was black female slaves that were first experimented on with no anesthesia, of course. So the impact that black women specifically have had on medical science globally is incredible. one of the first campuses to mass produce Hela was done by a black set of doctors and an entire black set of nurses and technicians doing this, but it just so happened to be on the campus of the Tuskegee University. And if you have heard that name before, it's because at the same time as they were mass producing Hela cells, they were also intentionally infecting black men with syphilis for science. Absolute madness, but true. I think that was the first absolutely crazy experiment story that I was like, that made me realise that governments really just do whatever the hell they want. But so yeah, it's fascinating. It's interwoven with so many different racial issues and ethical issues, and absolutely changed the face of medical science. So if you're looking for a non-fiction book to read, I would absolutely recommend The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks by Rebecca Skloot, or just even looking up the Wikipedia of Hela and their impact on medical science, because it is fascinating. So I didn't get to read all of the books that I planned on reading, but I did get through a majority of them. I still have 2 that I want to read that I will be reading for the month of March, but I did read 7 books specifically for Women in Horror Month and by black writers. That is including the Henrietta Lacks story. 2 of the others that I'm quite glad I got through, because these were my physical TBR and I really wanted to get through them. One of them is White is for Witching by Helen Oyeyemi. So this is the story. The story begins with 2 short sort of extracts of seemingly interviews with a boy and a girl. They're being asked where Miri is, or where Miranda is. One of them is her twin brother, and one of them is a friend slash girlfriend from college, and it seems that she has gone missing and they have no idea where she went. And then the story goes into everything leading up to her actually going missing. So the main bulk of the story is her coming out of a mental health facility. She did have a mental break. She was suffering from several different issues, but the main one being pica, which is a compulsion to eat things that are not actually edible, not nutritious. Her food of choice was chalk and also bits of plastic cutlery, forks and knives that she would chew on, and she wouldn't really eat much actual nourishing food. This is a condition that she inherited from her mother and her grandmother, and her mother sadly died in Haiti. Her mother was a photographer and had gone to Haiti for her work and had been shot in an accident there. So the family is reeling from this. They're in an inherited house that their father has turned into an inn, and is the chef there. He loves to cook, which causes a lot of tension between him and his daughter, because she won't eat, and he thinks if he can just create the perfect delicious dish that he can cure her. But that is not the case. So there's a lot of tension between her and her twin brother. They're obviously very close, but they're also very different. He's sort of wanting to pull away from her. He can't really take care of her anymore. He is unfortunately a source of some of her issues. She has issues with insomnia, mostly because he told her before her mother died he was worried about her going to Haiti, and he told her if she went to sleep, if his sister went to sleep, their mother would die, and she did die. So she has this compulsion now not to sleep and not to eat nourishing foods. It's the story of her sort of slowly going into decline, the story of their family and her disappearance. There's a lot of witchcraft in this book. It is more of a literary horror, or more of a literary fiction novel. It's not straight up horror, but there are some all goings on, some paranormal, supernatural stuff going on. It's all in first person, but what I found slightly confusing for me was that there are multiple first persons. So you get Miranda, you get her twin brother, you get her friend from college, you get a third person sort of omniscient voice talking about how her parents met and their lives together before the children were born. And you also get the voice of the house that they live in, because the house is central to the story. It has its own sort of personality, its own wants and motives, and is very much connected to Miranda, her mother, her grandmother, her great-grandmother, and some strange goings on that are happening in this house. I did like the book. It was quite interesting. It was very different. It really reminded me of Sarah Marie Griffin's Other Words for Smoke. Very similar, twin brother and sister in this house that has its own personality, its own weird stuff going on, a lot of witchcrafty kind of things happening. I did like it. The perspectives were a little bit confusing sometimes because you weren't 100% certain. Was it the brother speaking? Was it the sister? Was it the house itself? But it was a good book. It was a good story, and something a little different for me as well. So I did like this. I would give it probably 3.5 stars. The next one I had on my physical TBR was one I got ages ago. Love the cover. It's called My Sister the Serial Killer by Oyinkan Braithwaite. This is set in Nigeria. It is told from the perspective of Korede, who is a nurse, and she lives with her mother and her sister and their house girl, I think they refer to her. She's an employee, a maid and a cook who helps around the house. They live on a compound, so they have means. They're quite rich because their abusive father was into some odd and nefarious dealings, and when he died he left a lot behind him, so they have some means. But she is a nurse, and the story begins with her being called by her sister to help get rid of a body. And we learn that this isn't the first body that she has had to help her sister get rid of. It's actually the third. It's the third boyfriend of Eula's that she has killed in supposed self-defense. But her sister is now beginning to believe, or beginning to stop lying to herself at least, that they're all self-defense, and it seems that her sister planned it. There's no evidence that she was being harmed or anything, and she likes to keep a very large knife on her persons. So the story delves deep into their relationship, into Korede's personality at least. Eula is very much into herself and into her fashion and just taking things from people, getting men to give her money and stuff. Unfortunately, there is a doctor that Korede works with who she thinks is a fantastic man. He's great with children, he's kind to everyone who comes in, and she thinks he can do no wrong. And he finds out that she has a sister and that she is an incredibly beautiful girl, and this causes tension between the sisters. She is afraid that Eula is going to harm him. I find this to be fascinating. I really like the setting, I really like the characters, I liked the relationship between the two sisters is messed up, but it is utterly fascinating, and it's one that you can believe in when you're reading the story. They've always sort of had to look out for each other. Korede is the older sister, and they've been through thick and thin together. They've been through an incredibly abusive father together, and she's always said that she would look after her younger sister, and that's what she's doing. And Eula, in her own way, does look after her older sister as well. So I love this story. I think it's fantastic. I think it's really well written, really enthralling, and I would highly recommend this one if you're looking for a new book to read.